Am I the a-hole for telling my brother and sister-in-law they have to move out of my house? I, 41 female, have been with my husband, 42 male, for 25 years, married for 23 of those. We have 2 children who are 22 and 19. Our 22-year-old joined the Marines out of high school, and our 19-year-old will be moving out in the fall to start college. My brother and sister-in-law moved into my house in June after he lost his job. This was supposed to be a temporary living situation, until he could find a new job and save up money to get them a new place to live. We told them when they came to live with us, that as soon as our daughter moves out to go to college, we would be downsizing the house to something smaller and more compatible for a life with just the 2 of us. Both of our children agree with this idea, and think that we should also add traveling to our list, since it was something we never got to do. On Christmas, my brother and sister-in-law announced that she was pregnant. My husband and I were both shocked. We asked them what their plans were now that they were expecting a baby, and my sister-in-law stated that she was going to turn my daughter's room into the nursery, and move from the guest room into my son's old room to be closer. I told my sister-in-law that we mentioned to them that we would be selling the house when our daughter leaves for college, and the new house will only have 3 bedrooms instead of 5, and suggested that they find other arrangements before the baby is born, as the 2 rooms in the new house would be for our children when they came to visit. My brother flipped out, and told me that I was being selfish, and asked how I could throw a pregnant woman out onto the streets. I told my brother that I wasn't throwing anyone out. I was reminding them that we told them in June, that we were downsizing the house when they moved in, and that this was only going to be temporary until they found a new place to live. My sister-in-law is upset, because now she won't have any help with the baby and childcare. She thought since I worked from home, I would watch the baby during the day while she was at work. I told her that I would help on occasion, but that I am not permanent childcare. I told them both that we have raised our children, and do not intend to have any more, nor raise any more. My husband and I gave them 60 days to find a place to live, and we have even offered to put the deposit on an apartment that they can afford in order to help them out. My brother texted all of this to our family group chat, and now everyone is saying that I should keep the house for another year and let them stay, and told me I was wrong for causing so much stress for a pregnant woman. I explained that they knew when they moved in that we were selling the big house and moving into something smaller. My sister agrees with me. But my mom and older brother think we should stay put. Am I the a-hole for telling them they have to move out? Now for the top comments of this post. Yeah, not the a-hole. Tell all family who are mad at you that they can take them, and buy your brother some condoms, maybe that'll help. Enjoy your traveling when you can, safely. The sheer audacity of brother and sister-in-law, to decide to start a family when they are already living on the goodwill of others, and to assume that OP would provide childcare. Not the a-hole. They think because you let someone move into your house temporarily, that you should give that person free childcare, while you are supposed to be working? They think you should continue paying a larger mortgage for a year for this person? They are able-bodied adults. You are already offering to help them get started. That is beyond generous. They need to find their own place to live. I think it's so crazy that their act of extreme generosity, allowing her brother and sister-in-law to live with them for free for 7 months so far, is now somehow getting twisted into them being selfish because they aren't literally upending their entire lives to accommodate their unemployed relative's decision to start a family. They're being so kind and thoughtful, and it sucks that that isn't being recognized by their other family members, and is being taken advantage of by her brother and sister-in-law. Not the a-hole. They knew your plans. They made their own plans that directly conflict with your plans, assuming that you just abandon yours because baby. They don't get to complain. Well, they get to complain I guess, but you don't have to listen. Put them out of your space without remorse. Also, everyone who thinks you should let them stay, should perhaps take them in themselves if they feel so strongly about it. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for helping one of my sisters pay for college because she helped out with my kid, but not the other? I, 27 female, have 2 sisters, 21 female, and 17 female. My husband and I decided to quit our jobs and start our own business a couple years ago, and got pregnant around the same time. It was unplanned, but we ended up deciding to keep our little girl. We were really struggling to make ends meet, and a lot of our friends and family helped us out for the first year and a half. One of my sisters is child-free and is not a fan of kids, but my youngest sister was there for us a lot. Now our business is doing great. It's actually done even better during the pandemic, and we're doing well. My youngest sister is starting college this year, and we offered to cover her tuition and room and board, so she wouldn't have to stress about any loans. She's helped us out with our kid many times and never asked us to pay her for babysitting or anything, so we felt like this would be returning the favor. My other sister who is in college heard about us paying, and asked if we could help her out too since she currently has about $65,000 in student loans. We refused, because it just wasn't something we were interested in doing. Now my parents are saying it's unfair, and to at least consider paying off her student loans and having her pay us back, so she doesn't have to pay interest. Again, my husband and I weren't really interested in that option either, and feel like it isn't our responsibility. Are we the a-holes? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. The youngest actually helped you and you're returning the favor. The other is just entitled and you don't owe her a dime. Don't even phrase it as returning a favor. Tell them you're paying back your sister the money you owe her with interest, for the childcare she provided. Obviously, between you and your sister it means a lot more, but maybe phrasing it as a transaction may get it through to the rest of the family that you are repaying a debt. Technically not the a-hole, but that's a huge disparity in treatment. I'm going to assume there's a bunch of other messed up family dynamics going on. I can't imagine being willing to give one sibling tens of thousands of dollars, and the other zero, based only on the help given for a year and a half. Especially when the timeline seems like one was a minor, probably with lots more free time, and the other was really just starting to strike out on their own. Couple years ago, so 2 or 3, so one was 19 or 18, the other was 15 or 14. Plus, not to be dismissive of OP's struggle/grind, but isn't it pretty well known that new businesses usually doesn't turn a profit for at least a couple years? Also, both husband and OP quit jobs, then had a baby. I'm glad it worked out, but OP and husband put themselves into a precarious position. They didn't just fall on hard times. Not the a-hole. What you're doing sounds perfectly reasonable. The older sister could have helped, she chose not to. Now you're choosing to help the younger. Choices have consequences, some good, some bad. But could she have helped? A 19 or 18-year-old presumably just starting uni/college, would not be in nearly as reasonable position to help as the younger, who would have still been in school, and I'm assuming still living with the parents. I think the parents' suggestion to pay the loan with the middle sister paying it back interest-free, is great compromise. If not, this will tear the dynamics between all the sisters apart. OP, you're the a-hole. The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for not letting my son and his family live with me, until they got back on their feet?" I will start by saying, that my son and I have never had particularly good relationship. It's always been strained. I had him quite young, in my teens, and life was just really hard. He never made things easier or tried to help out, and was just all around an awful and very misbehaved child. He got in with the wrong crowd despite my many warnings, and was a full-blown addict by 15, which is when I kicked him out. He will never let me live this down, and feels like I owe him for abandoning him, and will use this to try and manipulate me and make me feel bad. I do my best not to feel guilty, since I did what was best for him and for me. My parents never enabled me nor my bad decisions. They kicked me out when I was pregnant, and I was better off for it. He begged me to let him come home many times, and I just wasn't having it. I did the same with my parents and they never gave in. It made me sort my own life out, and not rely on others to bail him out/enable him. He needed the same tough love. He cleaned up his act in his early 20s, went back to school, and did everything he should have to begin with. He's got a wife and family now. Anyways, the business he managed has been shut down, and his wife has been struggling with her health, only working on and off. Personally, I think she could work. I've worked while sick and didn't complain. She has a very woe-is-me attitude, which I find exhausting. Long story short, they had to leave their rental and search for something cheaper. He'd found work but couldn't afford the house they were in. They asked if they could stay with me for a month or two while searching. I said, absolutely not, considering his history. This outraged him and had a lot of choice words, and did his manipulation tactics of saying I abandoned him as a kid. The least I could do is help now. I did not give in. He ended staying with his father, which I found extremely hurtful. His father was not in his life until his late teens. He was not a good man and in fact, quite abusive. I begged him to stay away from his father, but he didn't listen, which had caused a lot of friction over the years. I'll be honest, I blew up on him. The disrespect and heartbreak I felt was immense. I can't explain what it feels like to have your grown son side with your abuser. His wife ended up emailing me, and saying son no longer wants to speak with me, and I'm no longer allowed around my grandkids because of my behavior. I think it's the epitome of insanity. All this craziness because I don't believe in enabling a problem. They are currently doing well and have another rental. They fix their problem like they should. I tried getting in contact over the last few days, and my son blew up again, telling me I'm an a-hole and a bunch of other terrible names, and to just go away and stay away. I'm furious to say the least, but curious to see how outsiders perceive the situation. Thoughts? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole in so many ways. Let's count them. 1. You were an a-hole for kicking out a child who desperately needed help. I don't know where you're from, but in most places, it's illegal to kick out your child before they're a legal adult. He was in a crisis and needed support, and you abandoned him and cut him off completely. That's terrible parenting. 2. You're an a-hole for thinking his wife should be working despite her illness. Are you a doctor? Are you somehow under the impression that every sick person has the same illness, or experiences being sick in the same way? You are completely unqualified to make that judgment. 3. While I disagree with your choice, it is your right not to house your son and his family. You're a massive a-hole for yelling at him for going to his father instead. So what, he should have let his family be homeless instead? What did you want him to do? After years of mistreating him and abandoning him when he needed you, why do you think you have any right to dictate any of his relationships? Good for him for cutting you out of his life and the lives of his wife and children. I hope he sticks with it. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. I'm sorry you had a rough life and that your parents kicked you out, but that in no way excuses your behavior towards your son. You kicked him out during his time of need when he was a literal child, and even after all that, he was willing to give you another chance to be the parent you should have been from the beginning. Since you're clearly not willing to try, he made the very reasonable choice to get help from someone who, it sounds like, is an actual parent to him. You are not the victim here. Your son is, he's your victim. Remember that. I mean, you did abandon him. At 15. Just because your parents did it to you, doesn't mean it was right. You gave your son no choice. That's not tough love, that's neglect. What you did was abuse. And a lot of how you act/speak about this situation, if you told him all of this, is emotional abuse. You've taken the place as your son's abuser. Why would he show loyalty to a mom who abandoned him at 15? He reached out after getting clean and living a better life for one smidge of help, only for you to say no. You haven't done anything to deserve that loyalty, I'm sorry to say. He probably is going to stay gone, and good for him. Hopefully you can grow and change and learn from this experience. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not being nice to the people trying to force me to sell my home? A large company is trying to buy up all the houses in my area, to build a luxury resort with a golf field, pool, and other things. A few days ago, I got a knock on my door and someone came over, and she told me she was offering to buy my home, willing to give me 5% over market value. Their stupid market value is less than what I bought it for. I politely said, no, I'm sorry, but I am not at all interested in selling my house, have a good day. She kept trying to make me sell the house, and I told her have a good day. 3 days later, she came back with a new offer, now 7.5% over market value. I said the same thing, please go away, I am not interested. Next day, someone else called me, I just hung up on them. All of my neighbors have been getting the same thing, some are deciding to sell, but most are refusing. That same lady comes over as I was outside doing yard maintenance and says, hello, good news, we have a better offer for you, 12% over market value. That's great, isn't it? Surely we can work something out. I then asked, do you have kids? A pet? She then responded back and said, I have a son and 2 cats. Why? I then said, how much for your son? I'll give you $15,000 for him, and $2,000 for both your cats. She got confused and said, those aren't for sale. So I responded back, okay a-hole, neither is my house, I hope you understand. Now get off my property and never come back, you're not welcome here or anywhere in this neighborhood. She said, listen, I tried being nice to you, your house will be sold, and we will try other legal means to get your house. Me, did you not understand what I said? Get off my property, you ugly disgusting witch. Then she left. Now I am scared that this company is going to try to use eminent domain to force me to sell my house. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I think it's time to speak with neighbors who don't wish to sell, then speak with a lawyer together. If this woman is threatening to take your home through eminent domain, then speaking to a legal expert is probably your best bet. This right here. The moment they started with the calls, she should have lawyered up. Not the a-hole. You're under no obligation to be polite to people who can't take no for an answer. But companies trying to take over property aren't known for being super nice themselves, so I'd ask an attorney for advice on how to protect yourself. Agreed. Other legal means could be a bluff, but better talk to someone in law to protect yourself just in case. Not the a-hole. I also don't see how eminent domain applies. Eminent domain applies to that which is built for public use. A luxury resort is a private business. You might want to get the neighbors that are staying to start a letter-writing campaign to Congress, the mayor, the judge that might oversee the eminent domain that may or may not happen. Nip it in the bud. If you show that you and others will fight tooth and nail from the start, they may see it as too costly a venture to move forward with. Also, maybe contact the media. Bad press won't be good for their resort. Sometimes in my country and others, they argue that a business will be public use and that it will create jobs, more tax revenue, and provide services for the community. I'm worried they might do this.